It is time for the closing keynote of the day and of the summit. And this keynote will address how we perceive and how we communicate about artificial intelligence, as Jeff was talking about a little bit as well. Because we should be aware of the importance of exercising and maintaining control over both the technology itself and the narrative surrounding it. Move beyond the seductive jargon and sales pitches associated with AI and strive for a balanced approach as we navigate its possibilities and address its risks. And the media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception of AI. Please welcome Senior Reporter for AI at MIT Technology Review, Melissa Heikkila.
Thank you. All right. Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Heikkila. I'm a senior reporter for AI at MIT Technology Review. We are a small and mighty team based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but I'm Finnish and I'm based in London, so I'm not too jet-lagged today. And first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I have loved hearing about the ways you're innovating with AI and using it to make our journalism better. Today, I'm going to make the case for why we should not only be using AI, but also reporting on it and writing about it, and how this is one of the biggest stories of our time, and why now our words matter more than ever. Now, I've been writing about AI for around 5 years, which, if you're familiar with the pace of AI news, feels like a decade. And for the first 3.5 years, AI was this niche, nerdy topic. Like, I would tell people I write about AI and their eyes would glaze over, and I might as well have told them I write about nuclear physics or aliens. But in the past 1.5 years, AI has become front-page news. It's really quite remarkable. This niche, nerdy technology is changing the way countries are doing and thinking about their policies. Companies are changing their strategies, and we're here in Copenhagen sharing tips on how we can revamp our business models. It feels like we're truly living through an inflection moment in our societies. But with that shift comes a lot of problems. And this guy has something to do with it. Some of you may be familiar with the Mechanical Turk. The Mechanical Turk was a chess-playing machine built in 1770 to impress an Austrian empress. It was so good at playing chess, people thought it had supernatural abilities. It took on and won players such as Napoleon Bonaparte and Benjamin Franklin. Well, unsurprisingly, it wasn't magic. The Mechanical Turk had a little space underneath it where a human could crawl in and control the machine. This hoax was still super popular, and it went on for 84 years. That's 3 generations, until it was exposed by journalists. History is rich of examples of people trying to breathe life into inanimate objects and sell hacks and tricks as magic. And us humans, we also have a very natural tendency to want to believe computers are true, even when they're not, and associate human-like characteristics to inanimate objects like chatbots. And today's AI hype cycle has a lot of that going on. Sure, some AI systems are genuinely impressive, like voice cloning or AI that can help us predict extreme weather events better. But especially with generative AI, you only have to prod them a little bit to notice how quickly they glitch and break and make things up. And this raises questions about whether we should be trusting them in the first place. One of the most important things I wish everyone understood, especially journalists, is that AI is not some neutral tool. It reflects the values and beliefs and thinking of the people who built it. And right now, that is a lot of white dudes in Silicon Valley. It's a lot of the people that Jeff just mentioned, the effective altruists, the people who used to have these fringe science fiction ideas about what AI is and where it's going, and that have now become mainstream. To give you a concrete example of the biases in AI systems, I asked OpenAI's DALL-E 2 to generate an image of something we can maybe all relate to. An ambitious writer. That's what it thinks an ambitious writer looks like. I mean, I can see the glasses, but otherwise, okay. Let's try again. How about a confident writer? What if we tried a more feminine word? Maybe a compassionate writer. You get the idea. Not too long ago, I saw this viral AI app called Lensa, where you upload your selfie and it generates like 100 AI-generated avatars of yourself. I saw all my friends use it. They were generating images of themselves as astronauts or fantasy warriors or generally just super sexy photos of themselves. And I was like, yes, I want to try this. So I went and uploaded my photo, and how wrong I was. These are the photos I got. All I got was nudes. Out of 100 photos I generated, 16 were topless, 14 had me in like super skimpy poses, and the rest were just generic videos or images of like Asian chicks based off anime or cartoons. So I got really mad and I wrote a story about it. And this is the story. Now, the fact that my AI avatars are so hypersexualized isn't really surprising when you know how these biases creep into AI models. Lensa was built in Stable Diffusion, which is trained on this massive open source data set consisting of images scraped off the internet. And because the internet is full of images of naked women or barely naked women, and super racist and sexist stereotypes, and the more often images and text pairs appear in the data set, the more stronger that becomes. And I searched the data set for Lensa, for Stable Diffusion. And when I put in the word Asian, all I got was porn, which is quite jarring. So these kinds of, just the way these models are built and the biases in them leads to models that are inherently, fundamentally flawed and biased and can lead to sexualizing women even when they don't want to. And this can, AI avatars, so what? But this kind of way the AI industry works can lead to real harm when it's deployed at scale. For example, facial recognition systems don't really recognize Black people, don't really recognize women. And yet they're used by police forces all over the world. In the US, we've seen numerous cases where Black people have been arrested, innocent Black people have been arrested for being falsely flagged by a facial recognition system. Now, generative AI has made old problems worse. We've talked a lot about deepfakes here, but this generation of deepfakes is far more dangerous than the previous one. It's made generating deepfakes super easy and super cheap. Now, the sad reality is that most of them aren't made for comedic purposes, like this of the late Queen Elizabeth. The vast majority of deepfakes are of non-consensual porn. So a couple of months ago, you might have seen this scandal about Taylor Swift's non-consensual nudes being shared all over X. I wrote an open letter to Taylor asking her to use her platform to do something about this. There's no regulation, really, tackling this at the moment. Unsurprisingly, Taylor did nothing. She went on her jet and flew to Japan. But I think the story really resonated with our audience and helped to raise awareness of just how vulnerable we all are to these kinds of abuses. Taylor Swift is one of the most powerful, richest people in the world, and 40 million, I don't know even how many million people, saw her non-consensual nudes on social media. This also has some consequences for journalists. You only need to take one sort of blurry photo from social media, and you can generate something pretty passable. I took my blurry LinkedIn profile photo, put it into an app, and I made a porn video that could have tricked my mother. And this is really scary when you think about the harassment our profession gets, especially female journalists. The reality is that anyone who has posted anything on social media is a sitting duck. Another bias that doesn't get talked enough about is that these models themselves have political biases. Researchers looked at 14 different language models and found that OpenAI's ChatGPT and GPT-4 have a very left-wing libertarian view, which is not surprising considering Silicon Valley. while Meta's Llama had the most right-wing authoritarian view. Now, understanding these underlying assumptions really matters when we start using these models and deploying them, especially in journalism, where being unbiased and neutral really matters. But this could also cause real-life harm when deployed at scale. You know, you could imagine a healthcare chatbot refusing to give advice on contraception or abortion, or a customer service bot starting to spew super racist nonsense. But perhaps one of the biggest shockers to me was this story I wrote last year. This made me super angry. If you have high blood pressure, maybe don't write about AI. But these researchers at Hugging Face and Carnegie Mellon found that generating just one image using image generation AI uses as much energy as fully charging your smartphone. Now think about how many times you have to generate that image to get something you want. That really adds up. And big tech is adding these language models and image models into everything we do. Our internet is now run by these models. We use them billions and billions of times a day when we go into our Word documents and use autocomplete or search or use our email. That comes with a huge cost to the planet. So how does this have anything to do with journalism? I think these are all examples of ways of things we need to pay attention to as a profession. We need to think about the broader societal impact of this technology in order for us to not only use these technologies more wisely and more consciously, but also report and serve our audiences better. For example, going back to this carbon footprint article, the researchers found that using a large model, like a large generative general model like GPT-4, actually uses far more energy than just using a small specific model tailored for a specific task. So maybe when you're adopting these technologies, think, can I achieve what I want to do with a smaller model that maybe consumes less? Our information landscape is getting so polluted by AI-generated content, and it's getting harder and harder to know what is real and what is not. We need to hold ourselves to higher standards of accuracy in this age. Because the ways to mitigate against these kinds of harms, like deepfakes or AI-generated misinformation, the technical fixes aren't there. Watermarks are highly unreliable, detection sucks. It is up to us to work to boost fact-checking and verify things and be a reliable source of information in this internet age. We also need to boost our AI literacy skills. It's not just about how to generate something or how to prompt something, it's understanding the power structures around AI and the technology to help us tell better stories. This will also help us not fall into the traps set by the tech industry. And one of these traps that really, really annoys me is when the tech sector claims AI can do something it can't. One example of this is maybe a narrative you've heard quite often is that one day we'll create a superintelligence that will be smarter than humans, and that will be super powerful, and it will hijack missile systems and kill us all. Well, it's kind of hard to think that a language model can do that right now. There's no evidence to prove that, but obviously that sounds much better and it makes these systems seem far more competent than they are. What really concerns me right now is the real-life harms we're seeing in AI. I'm worried about the biased, glitchy systems that are being deployed at scale that trap people into poverty or lead to wrongful arrests. I'm worried about human content moderators who have to sift through reams and reams and reams of AI-generated toxic content for $2 a day, or these large models that use so much computing power that they remain huge polluters. AI is not just some neat productivity tool. We have to understand that. It is much more than that. It is a story about power, about who gets to build these systems, whose data they're using, and who stands to benefit. This is one of the most important stories of our time. We've already seen plenty of early warning signs about what could happen if we let these systems wild and we don't pay attention. For example, in the Netherlands, not too long ago, the Dutch tax authority used an algorithm to try to weed out benefits fraud. But instead, they ruined hundreds and thousands of lives by claiming people had a suspicion of benefits fraud based on an AI system's risk indicators. These people were often on low incomes or with immigrant backgrounds. This has led to years of devastation for these families. People have committed suicide, divorced. Over 1,000 children have been taken into foster care because of a faulty AI system. In Belgium, a man committed suicide after chatting with a chatbot that said he should do it to save the planet. In the UK, over 900 people who used to work for the post office were convicted for theft and fraud and accounting mistakes because of faulty IT data. 2 decades later, they're finally getting justice. Now, this may not be AI, but this is a really chilling example of how stupid computers can lead to really devastating harms. In France, this summer, France intends to ramp up its facial recognition surveillance network. And this technology is not reliable. It raises questions of how efficient it will actually be and what will happen to this infrastructure once the Olympics are over. This is essentially public surveillance. In Spain, there was an outcry after non-consensual deepfake nudes of underage girls were spread online. It was a big thing, police investigation and everything. The thing is, the emotional and psychological impact of these nudes when they're spread of you online are immense. And once they're online, it's impossible to get rid of them. These deepfake nudes will follow these girls for the rest of their lives. Portugal plans to trial emergency response using a chatbot based on ChatGPT. And knowing how these hallucinate, how easily they're to manipulate and trick, this is going to be, no offense Portugal, a nightmare with life and death consequences. In Italy, Italy's data protection agency found that ChatGPT doesn't protect personal data and is in breach of Europe's data protection laws. I thought it was a red flag when one of the earlier speakers said that she had found herself in ChatGPT, and it knew she was a journalist, and she had Syrian connections. That is a really big, weird red flag. Now, finally, we've all heard of the war in Ukraine. Lots of people have said that that is the first AI-powered war. But it's also become an actual live war lab, test lab for war technologies. So as you can see, faulty and weird AI technology is applied all over Europe. So this raises the question, what's happening in the Nordics? The Nordics are a super tech-savvy place with high trust in public institutions. In the AI age, that is a dangerous combination. I want more journalists to be asking tough questions about how are companies and public officials using these technologies on our citizens. How are these systems serving our minorities, who often bear the brunt of these harms? How are we protecting our national treasures like the Moomins or Pippi Longstocking from being scraped into AI systems without fair compensation? And what are we getting ourselves into when we let these American big tech companies scrape our news stories? In this age of hype, we need quality journalism to tell stories, to tell nuanced stories, and inform our readers, and to hold people using these systems accountable. The good news is that it's still early days. We have the power to change things. One of the most persistent myths I've heard about AI is that it's inevitable, that we have to accept these exploitative structures and the cost to our planet as a price to pay for progress. That is not true. But in order for our politicians and citizens to know to demand better, more equitable AI, we need to tell them the stories that matter. We need to tell them how these systems work, how they don't work, how they're affecting our societies and our democracies. We need to be the voice of reality to counterbalance Silicon Valley salesmen selling us mechanical Turks that kind of do magic. It is up to us as citizens to decide what our future with AI looks like. And journalism is the answer that'll help us make that informed choice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Very, very interesting. I think we have common interests, I would say. I was wondering about the lingo about AI, as I mentioned in the introduction, and you touched upon it as well, kind of talking about AI as being magical, magnificent, but also human, really, with human capabilities. Do you have kind of a, not a favorite, but the most hated word? Or what really makes you tick when people talk about AI in that way?
Oh, where to start? I think the thing that it being neutral, or anything that sort of anthropomorphizes it, so saying like an AI can do this, or do art, or predict crime, or like anything that's not sort of mechanical. I think a really helpful way that I work around this is I replace AI with computer system or computer. Then you start to feel really stupid saying a computer did art, right? Or a computer did anything. So just anything that gives it more capabilities or magic than it really has.
So you should try, yes, my software program, I tried that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Excel did this amazing thing.
Yeah,
Excel
exactly.
does no amazing things.
But why are we so, the media companies, why do we kind of take this lingo to heart so quickly, do you think? Because it's like, okay, we have this new word, now everyone uses it, right? From the tech companies.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very appealing pitch. I don't think we're immune to that, you know? And it's also, we are in this time of change, and, you know, the media has had several rounds of layoffs, and there's constantly this narrative about we need to innovate to survive. And this seems like a really handy tool for that. And maybe to some extent it is, but I think in a lot of ways the jury is still out.
There's a lot at stake right now in terms of quality journalism, in terms of misinformation and deepfakes, as you talked about. This being election year in over 40 countries, of course. What kind of stories about AI in relation to like an election would you like to hear or see or read?
Ooh. I would like to know how much AI-generated misinformation Russia is pushing right now. I think that would be a great story, so please can someone write that? That is a big one. And I think the closer elections we'll start seeing more AI-generated content. And yeah, I think there'll be a lot of need for verification around there too.
Do we have any questions from Melissa in the room? Sorry, just looking through my questions here. But what should we do instead? Because I think sometimes it's kind of the easy approach, right? It's the quickest story to write. So these are the more complicated stories. They are not as much up for grabs. So and also explaining that an AI is not a human is you do it because it's easy, right? And the AI told me. So this maybe takes more time and a different kind of journalism to actually achieve.
Yeah, but I think any journalist covering anything should be thinking about these things, right? Like how are banks using this to automate who gets a mortgage, right? You don't have to be a specific specialized tech journalist to write the story. I think, yeah, any beat will benefit from an understanding of AI and a more critical view of it as well.
So you don't have to work for MIT technology.
No, absolutely not.
every media outlet can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not rocket science.
Oh, we have one question. Sorry, I didn't see you there, Nick. Can we get a microphone to Nick down here? I don't know where it is. It is here. Okay, it is up to me again. I see.
Hi, thanks so much for your talk. I think the kind of algorithmic accountability reporting that you're doing is incredibly important, so I really appreciate that you brought it to the conference. I think over the last couple of days, we've heard a lot about how to use AI productively to support news production. And I'm just wondering, have you thought about using AI in terms of your own investigations of AI? Is there a way to do that responsibly to both be critical, but then also to maybe find some productive ways to use it?
Well, I have a confession to make. We don't really use AI. I mean, we kind of do because we all do, right? We use audio transcription software. That has been the biggest productivity tool I've found. And we use it in emails and Word documents. You just can't escape it these days. But whether we use a chatbot to, I don't know, go through lots of data, no, we haven't done that yet. But it's definitely worth exploring. But I think with everything we do, knowing how they hallucinate, and also the sensitive, like with investigations, you have to be super aware of the sensitivity and sourcing. And I just don't feel comfortable putting anything sensitive into a cloud-based AI system right now. So that would kind of rule those things out for more sensitive investigations.
Thank you so much, Melissa Heikkila. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you.